Everyone?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, welcome to everyone for the Palo Alto demo. And in this demo, we are going to talk about the Palo Alto in a couple of minutes. Okay, and about its certification and what are the benefits that we can get while we have the Palo Alto certifications. So if we talk about the Palo Alto certification, so there are different types of Palo Alto certification. So PCCSA is an entry level certification. After this entry level certification, you can go for the another different level of the certification. You can go for PCNSA, that's a network security administrator, and then you can go for PCNSA. So PC in this particular course that we are going to have a demo today, in this particular course we are going to cover the advanced things, and in the advanced things we are going to cover all exact things which is mentioned in the PCNSA certification. So after having this course, you can directly go for the certifications of the Palo Alto. So yeah, if we talk about the certification and other things, so we are going to learn here the firewall, and which firewall we are going to learn here. We are going to learn the Palo Alto firewall. So there are different vendor of the firewall, and Palo Alto is a top one. So if you see the report, and this reports from Gartner. So if you see the leaders in the market, so nowadays Palo Alto is a leader. So this report in July 2019, and you can see the Palo Alto is a top leader. All right, now moving to next one. So if we talk about the firewall types, so there are different types of firewalls we have. Okay, and we have firewalls like we have host-based firewall and network-based firewall. So anyone can let us know what kind of firewall is Palo Alto? Any volunteer?
It's a network based.
Yeah, right. It's a network-based. So in network-based, among all these categories, could you please choose which one is the category? It's application firewall or packet filtering firewall. So which one?
That's the application firewall.
Right. So it's application-aware firewall, and it can detect from, it can work on from layer 2 to layer 7 on all layer almost, and it's a next generation firewall, right? So we have different types of firewall. We can say host-based firewall, that is for a specific host, which is protecting only host. But if you want to protect the entire network, you need to choose a network-based firewall. So in network-based firewall, there are different concept. A firewall can perform packet filtering only, so that firewall would be packet filter firewall. Then the firewall would be able to maintain the states of tables, so that would be stateful firewall. Then we have the application aware firewall. So basically Palo Alto is the one who is able to, which is able to identify your application. You can perform more granularity level of the control on the application firewall. So that's all feature Palo Alto is providing. Now, the next firewall, we have a web application firewall. So Palo Alto is not example of the web application firewall because it won't be able to protect from the advanced web attacks. So for that, we would need to purchase another vendor of firewall, that is a F5SM example of that, or Mod Security or Imperva WAF. Any question on this?
No, yeah.
Okay, all right. Now moving to next presentation, that's a firewall protection. So firewall can provide protection from multiple attacks. It can provide you protection from the unauthorized access. It can provide you protection from remote logging. It can provide the protection for your network from spam, email bombing, IP spoofing, DDoS attacks, session hijacking, and network-based OS vulnerability. So firewall could provide protection for the multiple attacks, from multiple attacks.
So one question, Mithilesh, when
Uh,
you are showing these attacks, will you, like as a candidate, will you provide us all the detail about these attacks also?
yeah. We will talk about the attacks, and we will talk about the mitigation as well,
Okay,
how
thank you.
we can mitigate. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now moving to next one, the why we should go for the firewall. I mean Palo Alto firewall. So what's the reason we should choose, or any organization would choose a Palo Alto firewall? Okay, so the reason is it's a market leader nowadays, and it's a next generation firewall. The most important reason, it would be able to manage, you would be able to manage firewall directly or through the central management device that is known as a panorama. So individually you can manage the firewall, or from the central location, I mean from the centralized manner you can manage the firewall. So that is the one of the reason. And the most important reason is it's a very fast. Why? Because it supports single pass parallel processing. It supports SP3 model. Means whenever packet is coming to the firewall would be able to process the packet for all the detection you can see. Because in other firewall, if any packet is coming to firewall, it is processed by different engine on other firewall. But here, on parallelly, it is processing all the traffic at same time by different engine. So that's why this is very fast, and for that reason you need to choose this firewall. Another thing, it has a dedicated management plane and data plane. That means dedicated CPU for management and data plane. So for example, on other firewall, the CPU is shared between data plane and management plane. So if there is any attack is happening, for example, DDoS attack is happening, so firewall gets overloaded and you won't be able to manage the firewall. You won't be able to place any rule. But on this Palo Alto firewall, it has a dedicated CPU for management and data plane. So it's separate, right? So whenever any attack is happening, so it is happening on your data plane, but your management plane would be free. So using management plane, you can push the policy to block the attack, and that's the reason you should choose a firewall, because I mean Palo Alto firewall. The other thing, it can be used in on-premises and it can be used on public cloud as well. So nowadays, if any cloud vendor, for example, Azure or Google Cloud or AWS, on each cloud vendor, there is this Palo Alto firewall is available. So you can, if you want to deploy on premises or if you want to deploy on cloud, you can deploy on both. And then it has a central log collection. So all logs can be centralized store, and you can use any SIEM tool to integrate those log into SIEM tool for better visibility. Yeah. So for all these reasons, you can choose a Palo Alto firewall. Any questions so far?
No, yeah, good.
Okay, great. Now let's move to next one, that is about single pass and parallel processing architecture. So you might have heard about this architecture. So in this architecture, what is happening? At a time, it is processing the traffic by using a single pass mechanism. So as mentioned here on slide, single pass software platform operations. Once packet received to the firewall, it is going to do all the lookups simultaneously for application identification, for decoding, for signature matching, etc. It is doing all these things parallelly. So that's why it is known as a single pass and parallel processing, even though content is scanning. So you are seeing this arrow. This arrow means that this is the single pass software. So whenever any packet hit your firewall, it is checking its policy engine checking for all these things: app ID, user ID, and content ID. It is checking for everything. And if we talk about the control plane and data plane, so for control plane, we have a dedicated management CPU and dedicated devices for the data plane as well, for networking, security, and content. So we have dedicated things for everything. Yeah. Now let's talk about the initial packet flow in a, yeah.
Yeah, Mudasar, yeah, Mithilesh.
Mudesh.
Mithilesh, can you tell me why we need this content separately, as we have network and security already in the data plane?
I mean, for this one, content one?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So basically, if we talk about the network and security, so basically it has a dedicated device for networking allocated for dedicated device for security allocated. For example, if we talk about the SSL decryption, so that happen in a security layer. But if we talk about the content inspection, so that is the next part after the security, and that's why we require a dedicated content one.
Content, if you like, if you're gonna refer to, is it correct if you're gonna refer to some ID password kind of authentication you're talking about?
No, content means the the content which is into the packet. For example, the data which is in packet. For example, if you are downloading any file, so the content which is contained within that file, so that refer to content.
Okay, okay, Mitesh, thanks for that.
Yeah,
Clear now.
thanks. Yeah. Okay, now talking about the initial packet flow and policy checking. So uh, if we talk about the initial packet flow, so this flow is divided into 5 parts. So however, there is there is detailed diagram which is next slide. Okay, but we will talk when we have a class actually in detail. So if we talk about the initial packet processing, so in initial packet processing, whenever the firewall is receiving any packets, so it's checking for the source zone or source address, destination address, etc., including user ID. After that, it would look for the policy-based forwarding, and it would check for the destination zone and net. It would also evaluate the destination net
What
over
is
here.
policy? What is policy-based forwarding?
Policy-based forwarding means if you have enable any specific route in your firewall. Let's say you have a two router, okay, and one is your default router, another is your different route, we can say. So let's say you have a scenario like this when your packet is hitting firewall, and if its destination is google.com, so it should choose path A, and for rest of the packet it should choose path B. So for to achieve this, you can enable the policy-based forwarding. Or let's say if any specific condition match, let's say if any specific application match, and for that application it should use a specific path, so you can enable the policy-based forwarding. So for example, if you are using IP telephony network, and for IP telephonic network, all the voice traffic you want to send to via different ISP, so you can enable the policy-based forwarding. Is that clear?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right. Otherwise, I can use the paint if not clear. All right, no issue. So in initial packet processing, right? Okay, in initial packet processing, what happened when any packet received by the firewall, right? So a firewall will start the checking source zone, then it is going to check the policy-based forwarding, okay? And further it is going to check the destination zone, then it is going to evaluate the net policy. After checking all these things, if everything looks fine, then it go for the security policy check. Under the security policy check, it would check for the allowed port, okay? And will create the session. Once session created, so it is going to encrypt the packet. If the packet is encrypted, then it is going to decrypt the packet. If not, if required encryption, it is going to encrypt the packet. After that, it is going to check for the application override policy, and it is going to check after this application ID.
Encryption means the SSL about which you were talking previously.
Yeah. Yes.
That stuff. So it is a
Right.
full proxy device, right?
Yeah, it's full proxy device.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it would check in application. Once a security policy check, it would go for the application, and in application, it would check whether traffic is encrypted or not. If it is encrypted, it is going to apply the decrypt policy, and then it is going to do deep inspection. So in deep inspection, it would check for application override policy, whether for any specific application there is override policy or not. If not, then it is going to check the app ID. After checking all these things, it go for the security policy check, and in under the security policy, it is going to check the security profile. There are different types of security profile for the antivirus, for the, so it is going to check all kind of security profile with the help of security profile. Once everything done, it is going to do post processing. Under the post processing, it was decrypted the packet earlier. Now it is going to re-encrypt the traffic, going to apply the NAT, and then it is going to forward the packet to the destination. So this is the basic packet flow of the Palo Alto firewall, and this is how your Palo Alto firewall works. So
This is
I
the
would, yeah.
sorry, interruption. This is for each packet, the processes, like
Sorry.
this is for every packet, every traffic will go in this flow only after doing all these steps only. Is
Yeah.
it correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Just a moment. All right. Now let's go to demo, and we'll show everything on demo, right? So just let me close this. Okay, before going to demo, I'm just going to show you what all things we are going to cover in this. Okay, and hopefully you have visited our website. So if we talk about the content that we are going to cover under this particular module, so we are going to cover the introduction of the firewall. We are going to cover the vulnerability protection and security profile, anti-spyware security profile, antivirus security for profile, packet filtering, zone protection, virtual system, etc. Apart from this, we are also going to cover the VPN, the different types of VPN, NAT policy, and we will talk about detail about SSL encryption, how decryption would work, what is the flow of the encryption and decryption, and we will talk about the app ID, how we can use custom app ID, that is application override, and we will talk about the network security management. So overall, this course is divided into 12 module. Okay, and in first module we will talk about the single pass architecture and it's a flow logic, and in second module we will talk about the initial configuration, where we will do the configuration of for the initial access, configuration of the management system, licensing and software updates, etc. we will check, and further we will go for the account administration. After this, there is another module that is interface configuration, and this is a step by step. So here we will talk about the security zones and layer 2, layer 3, and virtual wire. Different types of interfaces have in a Palo Alto. So we will talk about them as well. Okay, so after this module, we have a next module that security profiles. So we have different types of security policy configuration, different types of policies. So all these things we will cover here. Then further we have app ID. So all these modules we have, it's better you can visit our website and you can check for the course content. However, as I told you, we will cover the syllabus equivalent to PCNSC certification. Any questions so far?
No, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me show you demo how we can perform the lab. So let me close everything. So guys, we have this is our website. That's an NetMinion.net, and here we have option to access the lab. So you need to just register yourself. After that, you can access the lab. So for that, our management team can guide you well. Okay. So I'm just going to open the lab first. Let me click on lab. All right. And after this, we can click on access your lab. and whatever the lab is assigned to you, you would be able to access it. Okay, so this is the lab which is assigned to me. I'm able to access it. Let me just maximize it. So this is basic lab. So if in this lab, you can see we have a 2 Palo Alto device, Palo Alto 1 and Palo Alto 2. Why we have chosen 2? Because we will use here HA. We will configure the Palo Alto in HA mode. Okay, and that's why we have chosen to Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so Palo Alto 1 would be our primary and Palo Alto 2 would be secondary. And all these devices is connected to one centralized switch where we will create a different VLAN, right, to segregate different network. And we have the workstation. Using this workstation, we can access the Palo Alto firewall to manage them. Okay, so if you want to configure your firewall, right? So you just turn on all devices and you can start the configuration. So lab is very easy to perform, right? So you just click on the firewall and it is going to open the console for you. So this is the console of firewall. So when you press enter, you would be able to see the firewall console right here. You can just log in here. Just provide username and password. What is the default password of Palo Alto? Anybody has idea? It's a admin, yeah. Okay, now it is asking to me change. So I'm just putting old password and then new password. test@123 is a new password. Okay, now password has been changed. Now we need to configure the device. So initial configuration. So what's required in initial configuration? We need to configure the IP addresses, and IP address should be static, not a dynamic. So to configure anything in Palo Alto, you need to go on the configure mode. Okay, so when you run the configure command and just press enter, you are in configure mode, and here you can configure anything. For example, I just want to set the device type is static. That means I just want to set a static IP address. Then I can run the command set device config system type is static. So this command will help you to assign a static IP address. If you don't run this command, what would happen when you restart your Palo Alto firewall? The IP of management would get changed and you won't be able to access it. So that's why you should run this command to set the static IP. After this, you can set the IP address. So let's set the IP address. So you can run the command set device config system type. Sorry, system IPv4 dash address. Sorry, IP address, and then you can set the IP address over here. Meanwhile, if you have any question, you just let me know, right?
Sir, that tab key is not working on this console. Like it's not working on Palo Alto tab key for complete the config.
It's working. So if you are running right command, it is going to complete that command. And if you are not running, then it is not going to work. So tab key is working.
Yeah, correct. Same like Cisco that thing, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And all the students will get workbook also.
Yeah.
So that you can check on your part whenever you want to like configure your own lab. Okay.
Yeah, I would talk about that as well. So yeah, so I just set the IP address. Now I just run commit command, and now it is going to save everything. So, you know, in Palo Alto, most of the CLI has been eliminated and you can configure more and more using a GUI. So we have configured the IP address. This is the basic settings. We have configured the IP address. And after configuring this, we can go on and we can use a GUI to access it. Okay, but we want to make sure that the IP which we have set, that is correct or not. So we can exit from here, and now we can run the command show interface, and interface name is the management. So we can see that now the management IP has been changed. Yeah. So let's go to GUI and let's access it. So to access using GUI, we have the workstation and we can access using a web GUI console. So let's open this workstation. Yeah. And then we can log in here. So this is the IP of your device. I mean Palo Alto device. Yeah. So now I'm able to access it. Right now it is not accepting the certificate. That's no issue. We will use it later. Let's log in, admin, password. Sorry, password is test @123. So guys, this is your Palo Alto device. And if you see, we have dashboard where you can see all the information. You can see the information of device name, device management IP, management subnet mask, default gateway is not configured, IP version 6 information you can see here. The important thing is model number. So it is a PAVM. That means this device is hosted where it's hosted on a virtual machine. But if you have any physical hardware, right? So you can get the hardware name right here. Then serial number. So we don't have any serial number on this particular device, CPU ID, etc. And licenses. Right now it is not configured any for any license. And the VM is running on which mode? So it is running on a KVM. KVM is another virtualization platform. So it is running over the KVM virtualization. What is the version of the your Palo Alto firewall? So Palo Alto firewall version is a 9.0.4. So we are using this one. Okay. However, latest is 10, but this is recently launched. So in market, 9 version is very famous nowadays. Okay. Apart from this, we have a different types of version of the its component. For example, Global Protect is one of the component, and you know Global Protect is used for the uh, SSL VPN. So right now Global Protect agent is not having any version. Application ID version you can see here. So all these details you can see on the dashboard, right? Apart from the seeing the basic detail on the dashboard, you can see that who has logged in on the Palo Alto firewall right now. So the admin user has logged in on the Palo Alto firewall using a web console plus using a CLI console. And here you can see when the session is started and how means how much idle it is. So you can see all this information. Apart from this, you can see the system logs. If any malicious thing is happening or anything is happening your with the Palo Alto firewall, so all those things you can see here. Whether any interface going down or going up, you can see all these things here. Other thing, these are the config logs. So if someone did any configuration, okay, so all the configuration you can see here on the config log. Okay. Apart from this, if you want to set your device for anything, for example, you want to set your device, you want to set the device name, etc. So you can go on the device tab and you can go on the setup, and from here you can set the device. So let's wait until this is going to appear fully.
And this is the common way to set up this firewall, not this CLI. The GUI is okay, right, to set up?
Yeah, GUI is a common way to set up the firewall. So as I told, Palo Alto eliminated lots of CLI. The CLI is only mostly used for the troubleshooting. For example, if you troubleshoot your VPN connection, you want to troubleshoot session connections, so you can refer CLI more instead of GUI. So CLI is mostly used for the troubleshooting, but GUI for all the configuration.
So this is just a setup process. While troubleshooting classes, we're gonna use CLI.
Yes, most of the time.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. It seems. Okay, guys. So we are under this device tab, and if you see, this is about your setup information. So if you want to set up your device, you can set in this way. For example, we can set up the host name. Let's set up host name. This is Palo Alto 1. So we can say this is Palo Alto 1, the first firewall. Domain name, it's a NetMinion.net. Login banner. Okay, time zone, etc. we can set here. Okay, if you want. Okay, so if you want to set time zone, let's set India, Asia, Kolkata, and you can set a time over here. So it's at 2:40. Okay. After setting all these things, you can click on OK. And then you can commit the change. So I just click on OK and I would commit the change over here. It would be equivalent. Right now you are seeing the Palo Alto name, the machine name is Palo Alto -VM. Once it committed, okay. It is stuck actually. So let me do one thing. Let me retry to access it. Palo Alto 01. Okay, authorize access only.
So domain also.
Yeah, I would provide. Okay, so this is the basic setup and we can set the time zone as well. So time is click on OK and then commit it. So commit, when you commit, that means you are pushing the changes on the firewall. So we have commit option and we have save options. So commit is pushing the changes on the firewall, and save option to save on the device only. So now it has been pushed, and now you can check the firewall name should have been changed. Now you can see the effect over here, firewall name has been changed. Okay, apart from this, if I'm trying to access the firewall right now, I'm trying to access the firewall, but you are seeing that the error of HTTPS. That means the communication between my machine and this machine is not secure. So if you want to make a secure communication, so you need to enable the profile, and profile you need to enable it. You need to enable SSL profile. To enable the SSL profile, what you required a certificate. So we can generate the certificate, self-signed certificate within the Palo Alto. How we can do that? Let's see. So we can go on the device, and here we have option for the certificate. Let's generate self-signed certificate using these options. Certificate one. Yeah, just wait. Let me refresh the page. Hold on. Okay, so we were talking about the certificate. Now let me log in again. We can go on the device option, and under the device we have the certificate options. So here we can create a self-signed certificate so that we would be able to access firewall securely without any error. So to generate the certificate, we need to click on generate option. And since we are going to create a self-signed certificate, so here we can give the option certificate authority, and we can give the certificate name. So suppose I'm just giving the certificate name is NetMinion. So this is the self-signed certificate, and common name would be also same, NetMinion. And then we can add that how it is going to authenticate the certificate. So I'm just going to say it is going to authenticate the certificate based on the IP address. So I can provide the IP address 10.0.0.1. So this would be an attribute of the certificate, the IP. And once it's done, so we can click on generate option, and now we have self-signed certificate. This self-signed certificate we can export, okay, so that we can use this certificate on my machine for a client access. Okay, so we will do it later. We will install this certificate later. Now, after creating a certificate, we need to create SSL and TLS profile. Okay, so we can create SSL and TLS profile, and this is profile to access the firewall securely. So we can give the profile name that SSL profile, and certificate we can call the self-signed certificate that we have just generated. What is the minimum of version of the certificate? This is TLS version 1.0, and we can click on OK. And after doing this, we can call this certificate within the SSL profile of under the general setting of the device. So let's call here. And install it. And just call the SSL profile over here for the management access, and let's commit it. Meanwhile, it is committing everything. We can install this certificate on the local machine so that we would have a valid certificate authority. So I just opened the certificate, and now I'm just going to install it. Okay, to install this, what we need to do, we need to click on install, click on next, place the certificate where? On the trusted root certificate over here. And let's click on OK, click on next, click on finish.
By default, the certificate is for 1 year.
Yeah, by default, it would be 1 year. All the self-site certificate. Okay, so it is restarting the web services. Now we can click on OK, and we can try to access the URL again. So I'm accessing the URL on incognito mode, and this time I should not get any certificate error. Yeah, this time it is not giving any certificate error. That means the communication between my machine to the Palo Alto is pretty secure using the self-signed certificate. And if you see the certificate information by clicking on this small lock icon, so you can see the certificate validation, and this is issued to NetMinion and issued by NetMinion. That means this is the self-signed certificate. All right. So this is how we can make the SSL and TLS profile to make the communication secure between the firewall and the client who is accessing the firewall. After doing this, if we want to configure policies or network IP addresses in order to check whether it is able to prevent the traffic from inside to outside or not, or whether it is able to prevent the flow from inside to outside not, so we can configure the firewall using a network options. So using the network option, we can configure the interfaces. We have different interfaces, if you can see right here. I mean, on the lab, we have different interfaces, right? Ethernet 1/1, 1/2, 1/3. So each management interface we have already used to access the management. 1/1 we can use for the internal access. 1/2 we can use for the external one. And to configure everything, we just need to go on the Ethernet option. Let's refresh it again. Okay, let me retry to access it. I mean, in fact, I can close the browser and I would try to open on fresh browser. HTTPS. Yeah, this time it is not giving any certificate error. Admin. Let's do some network configuration of the Palo Alto firewall, and we'll create one demo policy. To prevent the access from inside to outside. So go to network option. Let's use in Ethernet 1/1. This would be your internal, and 1/2 be external facing. So this would be your internal interface. So we have different type of interfaces in Palo Alto, and by default is tab selected, we can select for layer 3. So when we have the class, we will explain what all kind of interfaces and what's their use. By default, layer 3 we can use. Okay. And under the layer 3, we can define the virtual router for the routing. We can define the security zone, because this is a zone based firewall. So we can create security zone. This is internal. And we can assign the IP address. So to add the IP address, we just need to add over here 192.168.1.1/24. This is the IP of your firewall internal interface, and this is the static type. After this, we can define IP address to other interface as well. This would be external. We can define its type. This is layer 3. And we can define the virtual router. This is the default. We can define security zone. What should be security zone? This should be external. Okay, then IP addresses. Let's see IP addresses. I'm going to define 100.0.0.1. And this is /24. All right, now defining everything, still you can see link state is down. So what we need to do, we need to commit it. We need to save it to check whether link is coming up or not. Okay, so after commit, link is up. Now let's create a policy from inside to outside. So to create a policy, we can go on the policy tab, and we have two types of policy by default. One is the intra-zone policy and other is a inter-zone policy. So what intra-zone policy is saying, within the zone, everything is allowed. Means if the zone is same, so everything is allowed. And if the zone is different, then everything is denied. So this is the default policy. So whenever you are going to add new policy, right here, when you click on add, so you would just give a name. For example, allow ping. And this is allowing ping traffic only. What would be the source? So in source, you can define the zone. If we want to allow ping from internal to external from a specific IP, let's say 192.168.1.10, this is my specific IP, which is going to ping your outside interface. And this is /32. This is single IP. So if we want to allow ping from inside to outside, so here we can give the source zone, source IP, user, any user, destination, we can say external, and destination address, let's say 100.0.0.10 is my destination address, and this is /32. And application, so firewall is application aware firewall, so we can define the ping application. So application is ping, services any, action is allow, and that's okay. And we can commit the changes. Now changes has been committed. Now what we need to do, we need to test from inside to outside. Since this machine is inside, so I can define other interface as well to assign the IP. So ncpa.cpl, let's use this and assign this interface an internal series of IP. So this interface IP would be 192.168.1.10, subnet mask 255. And what would be the gateway? Any guess?
.1.
You're right. .1 is the gateway. Okay, this is work network. Close. Okay, so this is my internal system, and this is trying to access what? This is trying to access external system. So this is internal system which is sending traffic to the Palo Alto firewall. Then Palo Alto firewall should send the traffic to external system. So may I make this router as a external system? Let's do that. No. Okay. Enable config space T. Okay, what is the interface we have? We have Ethernet 0/0 is connected. So interface ETH 0/0 and then IP address 100.0.0.10, subnet mask 255.255.255.0, no shut, and then IP route, exit, IP route 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0, 100.0.0.1. Okay, do WR. So if you see, now we have complete setup and just we need to test whether it is able to, I'm able to ping from internal machine to that router or not. So this is my internal machine. Let's open the command prompt and let's try to ping external device 100.0. -T. Okay, I'm able to ping, right? And if I just want to see the session, whether it is allowing through Palo Alto firewall or not. So how we can do that? We have a two option. One option is a monitor. Using this, we can see the traffic here, but right now it is not activated. That's why you won't be able to see any traffic right here. So where you would be able to see the traffic using a command line. How you can do that? You can run the command show session all and you would be able to see all active session. If you want to know any session in a detail, for example, session number 37, you want to say, show in the detail, so show, you can run the command show session ID and session ID is 37, let's say. So now you would be able to see that it is coming from internal and going where it is going to destination this. And this is the client to server. That means the source to destination. And this is the reverse traffic, server to client. So all the traffic is going through your firewall. And that's why here you are able to see the session is established and all the details about the session you can see right here. So when session is started, which firewall is owning the session, all the details you can see when you're running the command show session ID and particular ID number. Any questions so far?
No.
No?
Ping,
Yeah.
ping we have allowed, so we can do only ping, no trace, nothing else, right? Only ping will be.
So if we allow trace route, right? The trace route, we can do the trace route as well. So if we have allowed traceroute application, trace route, so we can do trace route as well.
And if you allow on based on a port number like ICMP or something, then it
Yeah,
will be on that.
yeah, you can allow port number as well. For example, right now I just allowed your ping only. Let's allow port number as well. Let's add one more rule and let's allow port number. So this is test underscore port. Source is what? Source is your internal. Source IP, let's take any. Destination is external. And destination IP, you can take any or you can take a specific, let's say 100.0.0.10. This is your destination /32. Now application, we are taking any, and services or port. Here you can choose your port. So right now, if you see, we have the port for HTTP and HTTPS. But if you want to create your custom port, so you can click on service option and you can create your custom port also. So let's say test underscore 80 is your custom port, and destination port you can mention here. This is port number 80. So in this way, you can create a port number 80. You can mention port number 80. You can click on OK. Okay, so it is saying that you have already port for 80, so you can cancel it and you can use your own port number 80. This is the. But if you don't have a port number 80, so you can use your own port number. So I'm just taking HTTP port. Action is allowed, and then click on OK. Now let's commit and let's try to access the router. On the router side, we just need to enable what? We just need to enable HTTP services. So anybody has idea how we can enable HTTP service? Authentication. Local. Username Cisco. Password is Cisco. Do WR. So now you would be able to access your. Now you can access the router over here. So let's try to access 100.0.0.10. Okay, if you are getting this prompt, that means you are able to access, right? Let's provide username Cisco and password Cisco. Okay, so anyhow, the local authentication is not working on the router side, Cisco. But if you are getting this prompt, that means you are able to access router. So on the Palo Alto side, you can see the session. So let me stop the ping. Let's refresh this. All right, so on the Palo Alto side, you would be able to see that the session would be there. Show session all. Okay. Now, what is it is doing? It is accessing web browsing type of traffic. So let's say I just want to see the session 170. Oh, sorry, 171. So show session ID 371. Sorry, 371. So here you can see all the details about your session. So what is the destination port? What is the source port? Everything you can see here, and it is going through which rules. So all those details you can see. Okay, any other question around?
No.
No?
No, sir. Thanks for that explanation.
Yeah. So I think I should stop here. We'll see you in class, hopefully. And please share your feedback.